20K followers on the gram. You feel what I'm saying? I've been going ham on the gram. Hey, y'all, I appreciate every last one of y'all. I'm talking about every last one of y'all that done shared my content, commented on my content, told a friend about my content, told a friend about stuff that I drove. I appreciate y'all, man. We're going to continue to push the envelope, on black love, man. We're going to keep changing the narrative, you feel what I'm saying? We're going to keep motivating each other, y'all. That's all I'm about, just motivating.
Members of Tyrone Davis Jr. say the most frustrating part about his death is the unknown. They say they don't believe he jumped out of a moving car. Gainesville police.
Listen closely, because this case just took another turn that's forcing a lot of people to pause and rethink what they believe they know. Tyrone Davis Jr., known online as Step_Daddy_Furrow, didn't just pass away quietly. His death has been followed by confusion, public disagreement, and now official statements that don't fully align with the family's pain. With his girlfriend finally speaking out, his father demanding answers, and authorities saying the death is not suspicious, the story feels heavier than ever. Before we go any further, let me say this real quick. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe these conversations deserve space and attention, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss anything here on Shadow Crime. These cases don't move forward when people stop paying attention. Now, let's talk about Tyrone, the human being at the center of all this. Tyrone wasn't just a name circulating online. He was a son, a friend, a nephew, and a partner. On social media, he came across as confident, expressive, and full of life. He shared moments of love, laughter, and plans for the future. People watched his relationship and believed in it because it looked real. That's why this loss feels personal to so many. When someone lets the world into their life, their absence feels louder. The cabin trip remains a key part of this story. A private getaway with his girlfriend, a place meant for peace, space, and reconnection. According to what's been shared publicly, Tyrone suffered severe head injuries around that time. Afterward, those close to him say he wasn't the same. Days later, he died. And from the beginning, the lack of a clear, detailed explanation left his family searching for answers. Recently, his girlfriend Lulu broke her silence with a long social media post. In it, she described the situation as heartbreaking and overwhelming. She denied ever harming Tyrone and said she loved him deeply. She explained that she stayed quiet because there is an active investigation and claimed she has already given her full account to both sides of Tyrone's family. She also asked the public to stop the accusations and allow detectives to do their job. That statement alone shifted the conversation, but it didn't end it, because around the same time, Tyrone's father spoke out publicly, saying all he wants is answers. He made it clear this isn't about money or attention. It's about understanding how his son died. And while police have stated that at this time, they do not consider Tyrone's death suspicious, his family says that explanation doesn't bring peace. And this is where the tension truly begins to rise.
Members of Tyrone Davis Jr. say the most frustrating part about his death is the unknown. They say they don't believe he jumped out of a moving car. Gainesville police officers say on December 27th, officers came to the area of Southwest Archer Road and I-75 after receiving reports of an injured person. Detectives say their initial investigation determined Davis did jump out of a moving vehicle while in traffic, saying he sustained significant injuries to his head. After a few days at the hospital, he died. Family members say they don't believe he would jump out of a car and say it doesn't make sense why his girlfriend, who was supposedly driving, would leave him on the side of the road. Davis's father says to him, justice is having the full story.
He didn't deserve this, All I really want, is answers to what belongs to me, I'm not asking for, no GoFundMes, no money, no nothing. I just want candles, and prayers and answers, And as a father, what more can you ask?
Family members and friends have been posting on social media and even calling us here at TV20 saying they still need answers. Officers say the investigation is still ongoing. Detectives say they do have a lot of evidence and information and are calling Davis's death tragic but not suspicious. Live in Gainesville, Kayla Lewis, TV.
Now I want you to really think with me as we move through this part, because this is where emotions and official statements start pulling in opposite directions. Law enforcement has said publicly that Tyrone's death is not considered suspicious at this time. They've mentioned an ongoing investigation and stated that they're reviewing evidence. On paper, that sounds like closure. But emotionally, for the people who love him, it feels like anything but. Tyrone's father speaking out added weight to the conversation. A father burying his son isn't supposed to be normal, and when he says he just wants answers, that hits differently. He isn't accusing. He isn't pointing fingers publicly. He's questioning how a healthy young man goes on a trip and never truly comes back. And for a lot of viewers, that quiet pain speaks louder than any rumor online. At the same time, Lulu's post asks for patience and understanding. She paints herself as someone grieving too, overwhelmed by public judgment, while trying to cooperate with investigators. She says she shared everything she knows and that continuing to speak online would only interfere with the process. Some people see that as reasonable. Others see it as incomplete. And that split is exactly why this case feels so tense. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Two things can exist at the same time. Someone can be grieving and still be questioned. An investigation can be ongoing and still leave people unsatisfied. And when authorities say a case isn't suspicious, but a family feels deep unease, that gap creates conflict. Supporters online have been debating every detail. The cabin trip, the injuries, the timeline, the statements. People are asking why certain things haven't been clearly explained in public. They're comparing what police say with what family members say they were told privately. And when those stories don't fully align, trust starts to break down. What keeps pulling people back into this case is that it doesn't feel resolved. Tyrone's life didn't seem like it was ending. He had plans, relationships, and a presence that made people feel connected to him. So when the official explanation feels brief, while the emotional damage feels deep, people naturally lean toward asking more questions. And this is where the pressure builds. Not from social media drama, but from human instinct. The instinct to protect loved ones. The instinct to understand loss. The instinct to not let a story end without meaning. The family speaking out. The girlfriend defending herself. And the police holding their position all exist in the same space. And that space is uncomfortable. Because now the story isn't just about how Tyrone died. It's about who gets believed, who gets heard, and whether truth feels the same as justice.
How y'all doing? I'm the father of Tyrone Davis Jr. My name is Tyrone Davis Sr. I'm seeking justice for my son. I'm not coming on here to provoke no violence. I'm not coming on here to ask for no handouts. All I want is just answers to what happened to my son. The only reason I'm coming on here just to set the record straight, because there's a lot of stuff that's being put out, which I don't have no problem with. But when it comes to playing on my name, my family's name, and I feel like this is something that had to be addressed. Waiting for some more people to come on the line. I was there on 12/29, December 29, 25, when my son was pronounced dead. There's only two ways you can be pronounced dead in the state of Florida. That's if your heart stopped or if you failed the brain scan test. A brain scan test was performed. Me, my mother, and my sister was in the room at the time. They pronounced him dead, and I will let you hear that. And it was asked, they told us that they were going to keep him on the breathing machine until the rest of the family comes to visit. Mom wasn't there, no one was there, it was just me and my family when he passed. I'm finna let y'all hear from the medical examiners. I'm not finna keep releasing everything that I have, but I did the homework. We went to Gainesville, we did everything we had to do. That's the reason that the ball is rolling. I was notified of my son's death almost 24 hours later. not by mom, not by girlfriend. Like I said, I'm not on here to provoke no violence, but I want the world to know that we're seeking justice for Dro. We're not grieving for rewards. I'm going to play this here so you can hear from your...
So the autopsy is complete. The cause and manner is still pending at this time. Typically when it is pending, it's usually because we are awaiting additional information. To give you an estimate, it can take anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks for it to be unpended after all the information has been received. Okay, so meaning that the report is done? No, the report is not done yet. Because the cause and manner of death is still pending. We are awaiting additional information at this time. Cause, what does that mean? Cause of manner of death? Yes, what will be listed on the death certificate as the cause of death, that is pending. So that means we're awaiting additional information. So the autopsy report is not complete. The autopsy is complete. That is the examination that we performed. That has been completed, and which is why he was able to be transported out of our care and into the funeral home. But our report with the cause and manner of death is not complete because we are awaiting additional information. And can you verify the death date for me? You said 12/29/2025. Yes, and that's what you have on your report for the death certificate, right? Correct. Okay, and question, is it pending because of the investigation that's going on? No, we're just awaiting additional information. I do not have specifics, but that could be lab results, medical records, information, from law enforcement, if law enforcement was involved. I don't get specifics, unfortunately, but typically all of that plays a role in us getting a determined cause and manner of death. Okay, is there any way we can get this expedited due to the severity of the case, or is it Unfortunately, we are unable to expedite anything, especially if labs are involved. That is, we don't have an in-house lab, so that would be separate from us. And it is machines that conducts those labs, so we would be unable to expedite that, unfortunately. Okay, no, not expedite. You can take your time.
Okay, so like I said, to set the record straight, that's my son. That's the hardest thing I ever dealt with in my life. I'm not here to promote no violence. I did the homework. Everything that's going on with this case, I did the homework. I'm not here to bash nobody. I'm not finna sit here and keep on repeating myself to prove to nothing in the world. All I'm asking for is answer to what belongs to me. And that's answer to what happened to Dro. Ain't no way my son go from I love you, baby, you my everything, to laid out in a bridge, under a bridge in the middle of the road with no answers. I wasn't contacted. Once again, everything that you see is going on, I respect the genocide. I have been reaching out to them. The platform that we had for us, the candlelight visual, we did that. The songs, we did that. I'm not trying to make it a this or that situation. I'm just hoping that I can get some answers to what happened to what belongs to me. I can't stop social media, from the clickbaits and putting whatever they put out, for views. This is not about no click or no like. This is my son, a real human being. I'm a grieving father. I'm not a social media person. But when it comes to the business part, trust me, it's been done. It's been taken care of. It's not about no T-shirts. It's not about all the other stuff you hear. And I'm not going to go on because it's an investigation. But when I say I have audio, video, I have reports. I went to the cabin. I'm the one, me and my team got the ball rolling. It would have been written off as an accident if we wouldn't have went 6 cars deep to Gainesville, Florida. There's a lot of things I can't discuss at this time, but stay tuned because it will be televised. Like I said, all I'm asking for y'all It's just if you know some, you see some, you know, share it. If you can't contact my family, contact Gainesville Police Department. You know, like I said, we ain't ask for nothing. We ain't ask for nothing but answers. You know, and for us, the business part of it, my son had a policy. So if you hear any GoFundMe's, he's not no GoFundMe dude if you know Dro. He ain't no GoFundMe dude. We ain't asking for none of that. So if you hear anything about help or we need to pay bills and all that, I'm gonna leave that right there. You know, and like we do everything else, I don't understand why the cards that I was dealt didn't have no faces on it. But you know, when you covered in the blood of Jesus, you know, nature gonna nature itself. And once again, I'm signing off from this here live stuff because it's not me. But I wanted the world to know I was there when my son passed away. You heard it from the medical examiner. All this December 30th, that was the time frame that they left him on the machine after they gave him a time of death. And you heard it. You can rewind the live after you finish it. You know, the time of death was the 29th. They kept him on the machine all the way up until the 30th. When the 30th came, you know, the rest of the family made it back up there or whatever. And however that happened for them to pronounce and say the 30th, that's on them. But you heard it from the facts from the examiner, not from me. I'm a grieving father right now. And I stand behind, you know what I'm saying, any voice, not only Tasha, any voice that's promoting justice for my son. It's the hardest shit I ever went through in my life. Excuse my language, but I'm hurting. You know, I have to walk in the spirit right now. Cause the flesh ain't able to deal with what's going on. You know, and I'm gonna ask everybody for y'all prayers. That's all we want. You know, if you got any information, you know, share it. You ain't got any, share it to me. You know, I ain't promoting no violence towards the genders or nobody. All I want is answers. And like I said, I'm a quote unquote. Me, my mama, and my sister was in that room, and you just heard it from the medical examiner at time of death. How you getting the date of the 30th is because they gave the family time to get there, to see him. Time of taking the ventilator off, it rolled into the 30th. For as anything else, I'm not coming back on here due to the investigation, but you will find out exactly, you know what I'm saying, the things and the processes as the investigation goes on. I don't have no bad feelings or hard feelings, cold feelings towards nobody, you know, because I'm just seeking justice. Everything I'm pushing to the death of me is going to be justice for Dro. Either you're with us or you're against us. You feel me? Because at the end of the day, I'm running off Psalms 91 and Psalms 23. If you know me, you know me. My family, when it comes down to, you know, what we believe in, we will go the extra mile. And we've been going the extra mile. We went to Gainesville 6 cars deep. We did what we had to do. We went to the cabins and so on and so on. I'm just not going to get into so much details. But trust me, just like I proved this message from the medical examiner, everything else will come out in due time. I want to thank all y'all, you know, for sharing all the love that came out to the candlelight. You know, we got other things going on, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. We owe him that, you know. And that's all I got to say. Justice for Dro. That was my son, just as well as their son. He the world's son. All y'all love and support from all over the world, that mean the world to me. And that's my motivation. That's my will. That's my drive to keep on pushing for justice for Dro. And once again, quote unquote, it's not no charity case. It's not grieving for rewards. You know, we ain't asking for no handouts. We ain't asking for no help. We want answers and prayers. And if you can't respect that, then you can't be human. Because at the end of the day, as a parent, put yourself in our shoes. I want answers. That's all I got to say.
This is where the story reaches a turning point. Not because there's a clear answer, but because the divide between official conclusions and emotional reality becomes impossible to ignore. On one side, you have authorities saying the case is not suspicious and that the investigation is ongoing. On the other, you have a grieving family, especially a father, aunt, and uncle, saying the explanation doesn't sit right with them. And in the middle of it all, you have a woman who loved Tyrone, now publicly defending herself while asking for space and patience. When you really sit with that, it's heavy. Tyrone didn't live his life quietly. He was visible. He mattered to people. So when his life ended in a way that feels unclear, the silence around details becomes louder than any statement. People aren't asking questions because they want drama. They're asking because they're trying to make sense of something that feels unfinished. Lulu's post asked the public to wait for the investigation to conclude. That's reasonable in theory. But for families who feel shut out of information, waiting feels like being asked to accept something without understanding it. And that's where frustration grows. Not because of hate, but because of love for someone who can no longer speak for himself. Tyrone's father speaking out grounds this case in something very real. This isn't just an online debate. This is a parent trying to understand how his child died. That pain doesn't disappear just because a case is labeled not suspicious. Labels don't erase doubt. They don't heal loss. They don't replace answers. And that's why so many people are still watching this case closely. Not to accuse, not to harass, but to understand. To see if clarity will eventually meet grief. To see if the story will finally make sense from beginning to end. So let's slow down here and really think together. When authorities say one thing, but family feels another, whose truth carries more weight emotionally? Can an investigation be ongoing and still feel incomplete to those left behind? And how much does silence, even intentional silence, shape the way people interpret a story like this? If Tyrone were someone you loved, would you be satisfied with brief explanations? Or would you keep asking until every detail made sense? And if you were in Lulu's position, would you choose to speak publicly or trust the process and stay quiet despite the pressure? These are the questions that stay with us long after the headlines fade. If you believe Tyrone's story deserves to be followed carefully and respectfully, stay connected. Like this video, subscribe to Shadow Crime, and turn on the bell so you don't miss updates as they come. We'll continue to watch, continue to question, and continue to hold space for the truth, wherever it leads.